This story begins with Jessica Alba as a skilled special forces officer who takes ownership of her father's bar shortly after he dies, and soon finds herself at odds with the violent gang running rampant in her hometown. If you're torn between a gritty crime drama and a high-octane action thriller, why not enjoy both? Trigger Warning delivers an adrenaline-fueled tale of a warrior woman taking on small-town corruption and global arms smuggling. The story kicks off in Syria, where a group of terrorists in the desert is caught off guard by a fierce woman armed with only a knife. This warrior is Parker, our protagonist, a highly skilled special forces agent, accompanied by her trusted ally, Spider. After completing her mission, Parker receives a call from Jesse Swan, the sheriff of her hometown and her former lover. He delivers heartbreaking news. Her father has died after being trapped in a collapsed mine he used as a shelter. Overcome with grief, Parker returns home and drowns her sorrow in alcohol. She's later joined by her best friend, Mikey, who reveals that he found her father's body in the mine. While Parker knows her father often spent time there, something about the collapse seems off. She returns to her hometown, Creation, New Mexico, for her father's funeral and to settle affairs with his bar named Maria's. Parker meets with friend and manager of the bar, Mike, and investigates the mine, deducing that Harry's death was not an accident. At a bar, Parker gets into a confrontation with Jesse's younger brother, Elvis, and later, she rescues a hardware store owner from thieves. To test her suspicions, Parker detonates a grenade near some nearby rocks and notices they crumble in a way eerily similar to the mine's collapse. Convinced it was no accident, she starts looking for answers. That same night, after a few drinks, she spots a group of young men in a suspicious-looking truck. Determined to prove she's the toughest in town, she and Mikey follow them to a store, where they catch them in the act of looting. The thieves, however, are no match for Parker's lethal knife skills. Parker witnesses Elvis and his henchmen firing weapons and snooping on her family property. When calling Spider to investigate, he finds that Elvis is a weapons dealer on the dark web who supplies arms to terrorists. While reconnecting with Jesse, Parker meets his father and senator, Ezekiel Swan, who is running for re-election. The next day, Parker notices Elvis and his crew practicing with high-caliber weapons in the mountains. Knowing her father kept military-grade arms in his shelter, she grows even more suspicious. She enlists Spider's help, who, aside from being a soldier, is also a skilled hacker. Together, they retrieve footage from the mine's security cameras, revealing that Elvis had met with Parker's father before his death. Parker questions Mikey and his mother, but all they know is that Elvis once tried selling rifles to one of Mikey's friends. Strong evidence that he's involved in arms trafficking. Determined to uncover the truth, Parker spends the next few days tailing Elvis and confirms her worst fears. He's illegally dealing military weapons. Later, Parker meets with Jesse, who introduces her to his father, Senator Swan. Despite his seemingly noble political ambitions, Parker remains wary. That night, as she and Jesse reminisce about old times, their unresolved tension leads to a moment of intimacy. But in the middle of the night, troubled by her father's death, she sneaks into the police station using Jesse's access card, searching for his case file. Meanwhile, Senator Swan tries to win Parker's support, hoping to use her image to appeal to Latino voters. She isn't swayed. Just then, she spots Elvis at the mine. Acting fast, she punctures his car tire before watching him and his crew unload stolen weapons from her father's cave. When Parker confronts Elvis, he threatens her with a knife, and before she can retaliate, his men set her house ablaze. In the ensuing chaos, she fights back, leaving one of the thugs to burn inside a car. As Parker escapes, she finds Elvis stranded with a flat tire and lands a brutal punch before being stopped by his brother. They drag her to the police station, where Jesse and Elvis strike a deal. Elvis confesses that criminals offered him millions for the stolen weapons. Jesse tries to persuade Parker to take a cut, but she refuses, unwilling to dishonor her father's memory. Sensing danger, she calls her lawyer, who later investigates the mine but is ambushed and killed by Jesse. Captured and beaten, Parker is forced to reveal what she saw in the surveillance footage. The senator threatens her at gunpoint, demanding answers, but before Spider can talk, she breaks free, launching a vicious attack on Elvis and his father. Jesse, unable to kill Parker, ultimately surrenders. As Parker flees in a patrol car, Jesse intercepts Spider's messages, impersonating her to keep him from intervening. Meanwhile, Elvis and his gang search for Parker, showing up at Mikey's house. Unbeknownst to them, Mikey has hidden her behind a secret door, allowing her time to heal. 3 days later, Parker is ready for revenge. Rallying the town's loyal residents, she gathers weapons and ammunition for an all-out war. Meanwhile, The criminals pressure Senator Swan for their promised military stockpile, only to learn the money has already been funneled into his campaign. Despite Mikey's pleas for caution, Parker storms the Swan estate, confronting the senator in his office and forcing him to confess. She learns that her father caught Elvis sneaking into the mine and, in an act of defiance, threatened him with a grenade. Elvis, in response, shot him in the back, causing the explosion that led to his death. As the final battle erupts, the criminals descend on the cave to retrieve the weapons. Parker and Spider launch a counterattack, using explosives as a distraction. Spider sacrifices himself to buy Parker time, getting caught in the cave collapse. With vengeance in her heart, Parker eliminates Elvis, only to realize Spider is missing. The townspeople help dig through the rubble, but there's little hope. Meanwhile, Parker rushes to the area where the weapons were stored, staging a diversion to mislead the military. There, she finds Jesse hiding. Their final confrontation ends when he activates a grenade, ultimately sacrificing himself to save her. In the aftermath, Parker learns that Spider survived. As they reconnect, there's an undeniable spark between them. He shares an old video of Parker as a child with her father, a bittersweet reminder of what she lost, but also a sign that her fight isn't over. The adventure continues.